All ad revenue from this playlist will be donated to Palestinian children through trusted charitable partners. Donation receipts will be shared publicly. Subscribe now. From century-old mandates to today's headlines, the Israel-Palestine conflict has been shaped by pivotal events. Indeed, the conflict dates back more than a century, with flashpoints building from the UN's 1947 partition plan to the 1973 Yom Kippur War and the latest 2023 Gaza War. Each turning point, from diplomatic deals to wars, has steered history down a particular path. Below, we examine some lesser-known but crucial events, how they changed the course of history, and imagine how things might differ if they had not happened. In 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, a statement of British support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. This imperial endorsement, later enshrined in the League of Nations mandate, gave Zionism international legitimacy and facilitated Jewish immigration. In effect, it laid groundwork for an eventual Jewish state. Alternate outcome. Had the British withheld this promise or framed it differently, the Zionist movement might have progressed more slowly or pursued different goals. Without Balfour's backing, the British mandate might have pursued a more Arab-centric policy, possibly postponing or altering the push for a Jewish state.
On November 29, 1947, the UNF General Assembly adopted Resolution 181 to partition British Mandatory Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. Under the plan, Jerusalem would be internationalized. However, Palestinian and Arab leaders rejected the proposal. This refusal led directly to civil war between the communities. Alternate outcome. If Palestinian and Arab leaders had accepted partition, two states might have emerged peacefully in 1948, and the mass 1948 war and Nakba could have been averted. Instead, Israel's declaration of independence in May 1948 was immediately met by invasion, and war ensued.
Israel's 1948 Declaration of Independence, May 14, 1948, triggered invasion by Arab armies, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. Israel ultimately won and even expanded beyond the UN plan. During this war, roughly 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes in what Palestinians called the Nakba, catastrophe. In the armistice that followed, Israel held most of Mandate Palestine, Jordan annexed the West Bank, and Egypt took Gaza. The UN soon passed Resolution 194, December 1948, calling for repatriation of Palestinian refugees to their homes. Palestinians point to it as a right of return. Alternate outcome. If Israel had been defeated, or if a ceasefire had arrived earlier, there might have been no Jewish state, or Palestine might have continued as one, likely Muslim-majority country. Conversely, if the UN partition had been enforced and refugees allowed to return, today's borders and demographics would be very different. A two-state map might have coexisted from 1948 onward, altering generations of conflict over land and refugee rights. The 1967 Six-Day War was another watershed. Israel's preemptive strike let it seize the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. The war's crushing Israeli victory changed the map, tripling the contested territory under Israeli control. In November 1967, the UN Security Council passed Resolution 242, calling for Israeli withdrawal from territories occupied in 1967 and the termination of all states of belligerency. This introduced the principle of land for peace, the idea that Israel would trade land for recognition and security. Alternate outcome. Had Resolution 242 been fully implemented, that is, Israel withdrawn in exchange for peace, in 1967 to 68, an Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza could have led to an early Palestinian state. If Israel had lost the Six-Day War, or if peace negotiations had succeeded immediately after it, the occupation and subsequent settlement expansion might never have begun, profoundly changing the conflict's trajectory. In 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise offensive to retake Sinai and the Golan Heights. The resulting Yom Kippur War nearly drove Israel back to its borders. It also triggered an OPEC oil embargo that shook the world. After 3 weeks of fighting, the sides ceased hostilities. The war's aftermath, including massive casualties and international pressure, set the stage for peace diplomacy. If Egypt and Syria had stopped short of war, the pre-1967 status quo would have prevailed longer. If Israel had been on the brink of defeat, regional dynamics would have been radically altered. In fact, it was this war that opened the door for Egypt-Israel détente. Had Egypt not sought revenge by force, Cairo might not have turned to diplomacy with Israel, leading to Camp David, and peace with Egypt might have come much later. Using the momentum of the 1973 crisis, US President Carter brokered the Camp David Accords, 1978, and the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty, 1979. For the first time, an Arab state formally made peace with Israel. Israel agreed to withdraw from the Sinai Peninsula, and Egypt renounced claims to war. This dramatically changed regional politics. Israel's eastern border became stable. Egypt, Israel's largest neighbor, was no longer an enemy, and the Arab League isolated Egypt for a time. Alternate outcome: if Sadat had not pursued peace after Yom Kippur, or if negotiations had failed, multiple large-scale wars could have ensued in the 1980s and beyond. Peace with Egypt also meant the Palestinian issue stood even more isolated. Conversely, if the treaty had included stronger safeguards for Palestinians, as originally envisioned in Camp David II, a framework for a Palestinian state might have been closer. Next week, we'll dive deeper into the Israel-Palestine conflict. Follow our channel and hit subscribe to stay updated.